I really greeting you in the framework of our project, Challenges of Sources Evaluation in Science and Correlated Areas. Jose, which sources should scientists use in his scientific work?
In principle, many sources, but the main one is the scientific journal, scientific conference, scientific, let's say, information. The original sources for information used to be for us usually a conference in which you can attend and to see previous. Usually in a conference, people present works, not always finished. Sometimes it's a preliminary work, or sometimes it's a finished work, but conference is a good source of information, but of course, scientific journals. I think the most important thing is the scientific journals. And today with internet, you have the access to the worldwide scientific journals. It's not so difficult to find any kind of information in the network.
What are the best ways to distinguish objective information and credible sources from the fake ones, in your opinion?
So in the scientific world, nobody used to believe directly on news from any different source than the scientific journals. So in principle, scientists usually don't believe directly information out of the scientific journals. So in that sense, there are a few scientists that really believe on fake news, because most of us, we can go directly to the source of the information through the scientific journals. If the news is not based in a really contrastable, a really easy way to contrast the information, we don't believe on that, usually. So for this reason, the fake news does not affect to the scientists as much as the general people, because scientists used to have a good source of information with the journals, with the scientific journals. So for this reason, I think fake news affects much more to the general population than the scientists.
Thank you so much. Unwritten rules in academia, it's exactly topic also of your article. Why it is customary to do something that has nothing to do with the results of scientific activity?
Could you repeat your question, please? I didn't understand the beginning.
Yeah. Unwritten rules in academia. Why it is customary to do something that sometimes has nothing to do with the results of scientific activity?
I don't know how to answer. In principle, are you meaning regarding the fake news or regarding the
that sometimes there is some rules that it's nothing compare with scientific activity, but it's, for instance, you should write the letter exactly this way, but doesn't matter what inside of this letter on this paper.
No, this is not true. I think there is a lot of I think there is a lot of ethics codes in which you have to follow that ethics codes. So in principle, scientists should or must don't publish non-contrasted results according to the experimental, the proper experimental way. There is the scientific method, which is very well extended, that is based in the experimentation and the contrast, and how to contrast the results with the real experiments. And in principle, a good scientist must know those ethics rules in terms of publishing. So in my opinion, if you don't follow these ethics rules, you are not a good scientist. It's so important to be a proper scientist in terms of ethics than about the knowledge. So ethics is so important than knowledge. It's as much important as knowledge.
Understand. Maybe you know another unwritten rules that also you can explain, that it's mostly everybody know, but it's not, it's like real unwritten rules, but people should know it.
No, I think day by day there are much more people involved in topics regarding ethics. So there is a lot of, let's say, journal papers. There is a lot of series in journal papers in which people can understand how is the general rules for ethics in science. So I think if you don't follow these rules, it's because you are not really, you don't really want to do it. If you don't follow the rules, it's because you don't want to do it, because more or less everybody knows how to proceed in a scientific good way.
Thank you so much. What does the notion scientific start with? What is the breaking point distinguishing science and junk science? How we can say, what does the notion science?
I know. I think science is when you have followed the scientific method. This is the most easy answer. And scientific methods means an experimental approach. You have to confirm. You have to propose a thesis. You have tried to confirm the thesis through one experimental approach, and you have to confirm that your thesis was fulfilled with the experimental approach. If not, it's not science. So if you just propose one theory, but it's not based with through an experimental approach, this is not science. In my opinion, science is made on the strong basis of the experimental approach, where you have to confirm, you have to check what your thesis was really developed or not, or what has been confirmed or not. So this is the real difference in between science and other things.
Thank you so much. Should we just trust the things the scientist endorse? Should we believe this in something credible simply because some scholars say so?
No, we don't have to believe on that. We have to believe only things that are really, and in that sense, in the scientific world, we have an advantage is that the most of the scientific journals, when you submit a paper or you submit an information, if the journal is a reputed journal, a good journal, this paper is reviewed by at least 2 pairs of you that can really check that if you have published or not trash, or you have published or not good information. So I think in most of the journals you have a good security. You are completely sure that you are publishing good science, because there are other people who review your work. So, and these people are external people to your life, are people that maybe you don't know them. So, and they are all the other scientists, and all the science is based on the peer review. And peer review tries to assure that the information that you publish is good information, is not a fake information.
This is the question what I prepare, but may I ask one more question?
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much. Because the title of our project is Challenges of Source Evaluation in Science and Correlated Areas. Maybe you want to add something, what you really want to tell about importance of this topic and about sources, why it's so important for scientists to know exactly about it, about sources, about information, scientific information.
So the problem now is that we have a lot of the pressure of the evaluation in the scientific world is so high that people day by day is trying to publish much and more quickly each time. So this pressure is really so high that there are some rules that are starting to be broken, and there are a lot of journals that are not really good journals, and it looks like a good scientific journal, but the peer reviewing is not so good, and they are publishing in a very fast way papers with not so proper, well-developed reviewing system. And this is producing a lot of, let's say, second division science, but in terms of the journalists and in terms of the general people, they don't distinguish which are the good information and the bad information. I know most of scientists, we know which are good journals and bad journals, but there are a lot of the so-called scientific journals that are not so well established the peer reviewing system, and they are publishing a lot of, let's say, fake news in some way, because they are publishing papers with not properly well reviewed. Sorry. So, and this is a high risk today.
Thank you so much.